into a high school curriculum in a strong way, like a beautiful seed. And you could say more like a universalia, an integrated curriculum in high school. So you're really working with light of the achievements of what human beings are, so that children growing up don't know what we're not. Well, they do, but they are being met with what is capable, what is possible within the light of humanity, not the dark of humanity. That is absolutely key, because we're all alarmed and we're busy talking about the dark aspects of the human being. So it's really key to bring in the aspect of goodness, beauty and truth. And they know why. The warmth is there when you walk in and you see all that color. The warmth is there when they have a sense of belonging. This is their school. This is their teacher. This is their class. And that sense of belonging, I can't speak enough to. So I won't. I'll let, I'm going to jump back into that. Whoop, where did it go? Darn. Right here. Sorry. That sense of belonging really looks at, I'm still on shares, so I'm going to go back into that. Adrienne Clarkson, the 26th Canadian Governor General, gave several series of talks and wrote a book called Belonging, the Paradox of Citizenship. And in it, she was really speaking to Canada, belonging to Canada as a society and as a country, that every part of Canada is based on diversity. And in the schools today, we really have to meet social diversity. And you could say that you can homeschool, and you can pick and choose what levels of diversity you're going into. But when children are going to a school, Rudolf Steiner said that's why they're there. They can learn anything they want to learn. We're not there to teach them more information, or as Harari says, don't give them more information. We're there to teach them social skills. And every teacher I work with today is actively working with embracing and working with social skills. So unless we have those social skills of meeting the diversity of kids that we wouldn't necessarily agree with or connect to, we now have to find our way with them, with the help of the class teacher, to make that work, because it's not always easy. It's not always beautiful and wonderful, like walking into a room full of adults. You don't necessarily connect to everyone, and children don't either. So it's a question of, how do we get there? We work with the arts. We work with movement. We work with the light of personal contact. We work with that breathing of individual and community, individual and community. You know, who am I? Who are we? Where are you going? Where are we going? So that full sense of community is brought through the festivals in a larger way. The parents are involved in Waldorf schools. They're often very involved in all the festivals that go on there throughout the year. And it brings in the idea of a whole school community, a whole school of belonging that the children can lean into and live with. It's almost a time that's past, unless you belong to a church. But if you don't belong to a church, there's that sense of, where does your child feel that sense of belonging outside of the nuclear family? Where do they have that in their experience? And I'll close with this particular aspect of belonging through plays. Every class does a play every year, if not several, in a wide variety of ways, just doing as a skit from a main lesson to a full-on play for the public performance from grade 1 to grade 8. And what that did when I taught my first few classes, and I was going back through the years in grade 8, and I said, well, what do you remember? You know, and I was wanting them to say, oh, remember that great experiment we did, Miss Walters? And wow, that story was incredible. No, what they remembered mostly were the plays. And they remembered the lines from the plays in grade 2 when they were 14 and in grade 8. And they remembered who played it and who was away the day that they were actually doing their dress rehearsal. They remembered that. So when you talk about aspects of social cohesion, you realize what a play really does is it gives us the opportunity to play together without it being us. and to us and the fact that we all need one another. We need the stagehand, we need the main character, we need the musicians, we need the person who's going to move the chair for the main character. So in that aspect, I was really struck by the importance of the play, not for a performance, not so we could show off and do the play for the parents. That's not it. But the act of learning the lines and playing with each other and creating an event and creating a scene is encapsulating what's actually happening in those 8 years in a smaller, condensed micro version of what it is we're really doing when we're putting on that play, when we're putting on that class, when we're putting on that main lesson block, when we're putting on the themes and the costumes that go along with a play that you could then take out into the whole school through a festival, for example. Now I'm going to just take this and back up a few slides because I wanted to talk a little bit and close with bilateral movement. When we're looking at bilateral movement and teaching from the bottom up in a Waldorf school, grade 1 to 8, and again through high school, we really look at what that is and how it works with left right brain hemispheres, which are, analytical and intuitive brain hemispheres. So in the Waldorf classrooms, before they even start sitting in their classrooms and learning, we have them skipping, we have them doing what we call morning circle exercises with hand and arm movement through bean bags, through clapping, through stamping, through clapping games with one another, finger exercises. We have them playing the recorders. We have them stepping. We have them doing a variety of different bilateral movements, using beanbags in particular, specifically to balance the left-right brain hemisphere before they learn. So before we expect them to sit down and learn anything, we take them through a series of these bilateral movements, which are absolutely a key. I have these resources for you, both what you can do at home, as well as one of I think, a really good book that everybody needs to read. It's called The Well-Balanced Child by Sally Goddard. She's a neurologist in London, England, and has her children had at this point, her children at the London Waldorf School. And she was so impressed by what was done in the Waldorf School, she wrote a book about it called The Well-Balanced Child. But she wrote it from the perspective of the neurologist and what we were really doing to stimulate left-right brain hemispheres and create a wholeness in learning, a wholeness in receiving as well. So there's a fair bit here. When I looked at the Alpenglow Waldorf School, which this talk is for, I sent a questionnaire to the board, and I asked them, among other things, what does wholeness mean to you? And a few of them really responded with aspects of emotional, social, physical, mental, and academic incorporation and balance of abilities. Wholeness is a mental, emotional, logical, and spiritual development. It means being connected to your family, friends, and community. Mind, body, soul. Well, all of this is embedded in the Waldorf curriculum, in Waldorf schools, and it's being practiced on a daily basis. So you have to say, does it work? Steiner said, our highest endeavor must be to develop free human beings who are of themselves, to impart purpose and direction to their lives. The need for imagination, the sense of truth, and a feeling for responsibility, these three forces are the very nerve of education. So in looking at the close to 30 years I've taught children, I think this might be the last year I've taught, but I'm still teaching grade 12. I have to tell you, this is just the picture of the children or the students that I have taught who have been in touch with me in the last 3 weeks. In the last 3 weeks. So at the top we have a girl, maybe for confidentiality, I won't say their names, but she lives in Australia and she's studying to be a neurosurgeon. She is 26 years old, walked through a medical degree and decided that she wants to go into to become a brain surgeon. The next girl I taught in Toronto in grade 6, and she's 25 and she's a nurse, critical care emergency room nurse, and she loves her job. And she's highly resilient and feels very capable of addressing at the age of 25 families who are dealing with emergencies. The lower bottom was just, actually, that was in September, late August, actually, so maybe not a month. This last picture came in late August, where my second group had an impromptu reunion, and about 7 of them showed up who were local or just coming in, and they met for dinner. And they are doing all kinds of things, from hotel management around the world to studying an MA in architecture to being a forest technician, and etc. So then we have 2 35-year-olds here with children in my backyard, one who has a political science degree, who is one of the most well-balanced people I know, who built a studio for me, and I met him every single day, and I saw him, when he was 7 and 8 and 9 years old, and he is still the same person he was when I taught him. And as is the girl here, who's a forester and a mom of 2, lives in Mackenzie. These two are two of the most, and they're still best friends, by the way. They've been best friends since kindergarten at 35. And this boy was in my studio just not too long ago. And he was actually pouring and creating an architectural mold. He's a permaculture designer in India, and he has an idea of creating an ability to have people grow food on the side of their tenement buildings in Asia. He sees that everywhere, and he's building a model for forms. He's highly inventive. He's got energy to boot, and he was back in Nelson for a visit. This girl I taught in Toronto, she's 25 and the 3rd violin in the Regina Symphony. So you can say, who are these kids do at work? Well, they have their ups and downs, like we all do. Are they resilient? Absolutely. Do they have an inner sense of creativity, and can they do anything? Well, Tobias this boy became a carpenter, but he could easily be a judge, and he knows it. He knows it. He said he's waiting for his kids to grow up. He just wants to raise his family, and he wants to raise his family well. And I would say, given the ups and downs, I still get invited to their birthday parties at the age of 35. They still come and visit. I had a girl here last week staying the weekend with me who's a teacher not too far away, a public school teacher. And so the sense of community only grows. It doesn't end. Their parents don't even live here, and they're visiting me. So their class teacher somehow, and that idea, that sense of belonging, carries forth into their 30s. Hopefully later than that. So I'd like to close and thank you for coming. And I'll stop sharing. And really, I'd just like to say, at this point in time, it's really about how do we hold our children in care, and not what do we teach them, but how do we teach resilience and wholeness, and the ability for each one each